Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping headfirst into one of William Shakespeare's earliest, shortest, and just most ridiculously chaotic plays. Get ready for a wild ride of mistaken identity, pure slapstick humor, and a family reunion you will absolutely not see coming. Okay, just picture this for a second. You show up in a brand new city, and right away, everyone seems to know you. They're calling you by name, they're yelling at you for being late for dinner, and they're demanding you pay for a gold chain you've never even seen. Well, that's the beautifully confusing mess at the heart of the comedy of errors. But Shakespeare, being Shakespeare, he must have thought, one set of identical twins, that's just not enough chaos. So what did he do? He doubled it. That's right, we've got two sets of identical twins who are about to turn the entire city of Ephesus completely upside down. So to even begin to keep track of this madness, let's meet our main players. It seems simple enough, right? On one side, we have our visitors from a city called Syracuse, a master named Antipholus, and his servant, Dromio. And on the other side, already living in Ephesus, are their long-lost identical twin brothers, who are also named Antipholus and Dromio. And here's the most important part. None of them have a clue that the others even exist. But before we get to all the comedy, we have to talk about the tragedy that kicked this whole thing off. Because underneath all the zany humor, there's actually this really deep sadness about a family that was completely torn apart. So the play actually opens on a super grim note. We meet this old merchant, Aegeon, who just so happens to be the father of the two Antipholus twins. He's been arrested just for being from Syracuse, a rival city, and the law is harsh. If he can't pay a massive fine by sundown, he'll be executed. Pleading for his life, Aegeon tells the Duke this absolutely heartbreaking story. He says years and years ago, a terrible shipwreck literally split his family in two. He was saved clinging to a mast with one of his baby sons and one of the baby servants. But his wife, Amelia, she was on another piece of wreckage with the other identical babies, and they were just swept away. He hasn't seen them since. And right here, this is where the fun begins. At the exact same time, Aegeon is telling his sad story. His son, Antipholus of Syracuse, who's been traveling the world looking for his lost brother, shows up in Ephesus. He has no idea his father is about to be executed just down the street, or that his identical twin is a prominent citizen. So, let the chaos begin. And believe me, the confusion snowballs almost immediately. First, the local Antipholus' wife, Adriana, she sees the visiting Antipholus in the street and literally drags him home for dinner, refusing to believe he isn't her husband. Meanwhile, both poor Dromios keep getting beaten for messing up errands they were never even given. It all peaks when a goldsmith gives this expensive gold chain to the wrong Antipholus, which leads to an arrest for debt. In just a few hours, they're all being accused of cheating, stealing, and eventually being completely insane. This line right here just captures the madness perfectly. At one point, both Dromios are trying to guard a door from each other. Imagine trying to explain that you are who you say you are, while an identical version of yourself is standing right there, also claiming to be you. It's a total mindbender. So things get so out of hand that the visiting twins are just completely convinced the city is full of witches and sorcerers. They're being chased through the streets by an angry mob of people they've never met. They see a priory, a religious house, and they just make a run for it and demand sanctuary inside. And then we get the grand finale. The abbess, the woman in charge of the priory, comes out to figure out what all the commotion is about. And as everyone starts telling their side of this insane story, the pieces start to click into place. The abbess is none other than Amelia, Aegeon's long-lost wife and the mother of the Antipholus twins. The entire family is reunited, Aegeon is saved, and all the chaos of the day finally makes sense. So, now that the family's back together and the chaos is over, let's take a step back and look at the story behind the story. Because this is one of Shakespeare's earliest plays, and you can really see him just having fun, experimenting with plot and pushing comedy to its absolute limit. Scholars figure Shakespeare probably wrote this play around 1594, and we actually know that its first recorded performance was later that same year, for an audience of lawyers, of all people, which might explain some of the jokes about law and justice in the script. But funny enough, it wasn't actually published until 1623, a full 7 years after he died, in that legendary collection we now call the First Folio. And hey, if you're looking for a quick entry into Shakespeare, this is the one. At just 1,777 lines, The Comedy of Errors is officially his shortest play. It's just this quick, super concentrated burst of comedic energy. Now, Shakespeare didn't just pull this story out of thin air. His real genius here was in the adaptation. See, he based it on an old Roman comedy by a playwright named Plautus, but that play only had one set of twins. Shakespeare's brilliant move? He added the second set, the servants, the Dromios, and by doing that, he literally doubled the potential for confusion and doubled the laughs. So you might be thinking, okay, it's a fun, chaotic play, but what's its lasting impact? Well, it's actually way bigger than you might think. It has worked its way right into the English language itself. That's right, the title of the play is now a common phrase. The next time you see some situation just spiral out of control because of one silly mistake after another, like a wrong email leads to a company-wide panic, you can just shake your head and say, wow, what a comedy of errors. So, why does this short, early play still matter so much? Well, for one, it's Shakespeare's most pure farce. It's all about physical comedy and slapstick, not as much of the complex poetry he'd write later. It's also super unique because it's built so tightly. The entire story happens in one place, on a single day, with just one main plot. And while some critics might call it an apprentice comedy, it's really an amazing showcase of the raw talent that was about to change literature forever. And that kind of brings us to our final thought here. For one absolutely bonkers day in Ephesus, Antipholus and Dromio were whoever people told them they were. A husband, a thief, a madman. It really makes you wonder, right? If everyone in your life suddenly started insisting you were someone else, how long would it take before you started to believe them? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.